Today, the first televised presidential debate is over in the United States, but reactions continue. Despite his performance last Thursday, President Joe Biden's family has told him to remain in the race for the November election against former President Donald Trump. This weekend, the U.S. president was in Camp David, the presidential retreat in Maryland, with the First Lady Jill Biden, his children and grandchildren. Well, the trip was scheduled previously for a shoot with photographer Annie Leibovitz for the upcoming Democratic National Convention. It also became an exercise in trying to figure out how to quell party anxiety following Thursday's dismal showing. While his party was aware of how poorly the 81-year-old performed against Trump, they also think he remains the best person to beat the Republican and that he's capable of doing the job of president for another 4 years, according to media reports, citing people who asked to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to speak publicly about internal discussions. Jill Biden and her son, Hunter Biden, the people he listens to most in the world, were among those amongst the supporters. The New York Times quoted people close to the situation as saying that the Biden family was urging him to stay in the race and keep fighting. The paper said some of the family privately expressed exasperation at how his staff had prepared him for Thursday night's event. Well, the former president, Donald Trump, claimed big victory over Joe Biden following the debate. He was speaking at a rally in Chesapeake, Virginia on Friday, saying no amount of rigging could have helped his political rival in the first debate of the presidential election. He also responded to rumors that Democrats may seek to replace Biden as their presidential nominee after their performance on Thursday night.
Saw on television last night, we had a big victory against a man that really is looking to destroy our country. He's the worst, he's the most corrupt, the most incompetent president in the history of our country. Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing. He got the debate rules that he wanted. He got the date that he wanted. He got the network that he wanted. With the moderates he wanted. No amount of rest or rigging could help him defend his atrocious record. When you look at the incredible destructive power of these weapons, this will be a war like no other. This will not be two army tanks running against each other and shooting. This is going to be something the likes of which we've never seen. And we have a man who's grossly incompetent heading up our nation, and he's competing against Putin and President Xi of China and Kim Jong-un of North Korea. He's competing against people that are at the top of their game. And he was never really at the top of his game. Many people are saying that after last night's performance that Joe Biden is leaving the race. But the fact is, I don't really believe that because he does better in polls than any of the Democrats they're talking about. Kamala is somebody that will be on the scope. It might have been Joe Biden's single best decision putting her as vice president. Might have been his best because nobody wants that. I do. I'd be very happy with that.
The U.S. President Joe Biden, however, says he intends to defeat Donald Trump in the November election, given no sign he would consider dropping out of the race after a feeble debate performance. Biden's viral stumbles and occasionally meandering responses in the debate heightened voter concerns that he might not be fit to serve another 4-year term and prompted some of his fellow Democrats to wonder whether they could replace him as their candidate for the November 5 election. Campaign spokesperson Michael Tyler said there were no conversations taking place about that possibility.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up. I know what it took to take our economy from the depths of the pandemic to where it is today, the strongest economy in the world. I know what it'll take to bring this economy to everybody. I know what it'll take to rally the world to stand up against Putin and defend freedom, not yield to him. And I know what it'll take to keep the world safe and free for the years ahead. Folks, I give you my word as a Biden, I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job. Because quite frankly, the stakes are too high. The stakes are too high. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat for everything America stands for. Look, he doesn't understand what I think all of you do. America is the finest, the most unique nation in the world.
Joining me now is former Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and former Nigerian Consul General to the United States, Ambassador Joe Keshi. Ambassador Keshi, great to have you on the program. As always, you watched pretty intensely that debate on Thursday night. What did you observe about the way both Biden and Trump handled the questions so they hard to answer?
Well, Amarachi, I guess everybody who saw both gentlemen, debate, will be trying to observe that Joe Biden, for example, tried his best to stay focused on the issues. But unfortunately, he didn't have enough energy on that day, and I emphasize on that day, he didn't have enough energy on that day to push a lot of things out, particularly to talk about the economy, to talk about abortion, which is the key of its platform, to talk about democracy, which again is at the heart of its campaign. On the other hand, Trump did what everybody expected him to do anyway. Everybody expected him to come in, and express his anger at almost everybody. People expected that he will repeat, that he will lie, and of course he did quite a number of, that. As a matter of fact, Trump did not even answer most of the questions. He simply elected to focus on what he wanted to say, and anytime he decides to say something, he just lies on a number of things, and inadvertently insults people. When you begin to say that the criminals coming from Latin America and the criminals, the rapists, the prisoners coming from Latin America are coming to America to take black jobs, invariably you are thinking of the days of slavery, that the blacks are still at the bottom of the ladder, and that those coming in are coming to take blacks' jobs. I sincerely hope that the blacks notice that and that they will take up that when the time comes.
Yeah, it begs the question, really, what are the black jobs that he was referring to? It would be nice if he had explained them. But, past U.S. presidential debates have been really fast-paced. For example, President Obama's debates with Trump was really feisty, was good television, really good to watch. It was nice to fact-check both the leaders as they, spoke about and addressed various issues. It was also really nice they made good TV, was what I'm trying to say. But in this instance, it was a lot slower paced than usual. And I don't know how many people actually had the patience to watch all through the night.
Well, I guess what for me, I think more because, it was in a studio setting, the audience was not. Look, when you have a debate before an audience, it inspires you. As a matter of fact, right away, as soon as the debate, halfway down the debate, you can judge by the reaction of the audience whether you are doing good or whether you are doing badly. If they had done that, if they had audience listening to both gentlemen in the studio, Biden would have realized, for example, by just looking at the audience that he was already getting himself into trouble and that he needed to do more. So the energy of the crowd that would have inspired people like Biden, Tom doesn't need any inspiration from the audience. He controls the audience anytime he speaks anyway, But yes, you're right about your observation. But look, these debates are good for whatever, they can do. But I think one of these days we might actually realize that debates like this, hardly moves the needle.
It hardly does. President Biden's performance, as many media in the U.S. have reported, is currently a source of worry to the Democrats. We heard former President Trump talk about the possibility of bringing the Vice President Kamala Harris into the game. He says he thinks it's a bad idea to bring in any other Democrat because he doesn't think that they have, enough clout to move the needle which you're talking about. But really, is President Biden's performance, not really his performance, but his performance over the last few months, they, stir any confidence in you that this is someone who has the energy to rule for another 4 years?
Amarachi, when we played football in those days, and both in school and in the university, our coaches, rather, when I played football for Water Corporation in Ibadan and in school in Loyola College, our coaches used to tell us something when we lose a match, that every footballer has a day off. In other words, in games like this, there are bad days and there are good days. The good days are when you win. The bad days are when you lose. For Joe Biden, last Thursday was a very, very bad day, and everybody agrees to that. But that's not enough. That's not enough for all this panic within the Democratic Party and the supporters of the Democrats around the world. You just have to understand this. 4 years ago, Biden, like Obama, lost the first debate. 67% of Americans, if I'm right, said Trump won the first debate. Amarachi, today, the same 67% of Americans said that Trump won the debate. As Baba Salah would say, if you understand my Yoruba, ko pass, ko fail, ko fi class, ko no sile. In other words, Trump is still where he was 4 years ago in terms of popular acceptance by the Americans. Secondly, what all of us are reacting to is the main media narrative, is the main media perspective. The Latino television, for example, has a complete different view of what happened at the debate. Social media equally has a complete different view of what happened at the debate. But look, here's the take. It is still a long way to November. And I can tell you, a football team that lost a match, certainly it's possible they will win the next match. And we've seen this in all the league games. 4 years ago, Joe Biden won the second debate and won the third debate. And so anybody who is panicking now, look, let's start watching the polls. Let's start taking this election seriously after Labor Day in the United States. That's where majority of Americans begin to focus on the election. And as you can see, 70 million Americans watched the last debate. But guess what? Very few minds, if any, were changed. So we're still back to square one. It remains a tight race.
It is a tight race. That I can agree with you on. And if there's anything I know about U.S. elections, it is that, well, nothing is certain until election night when the results do come in.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, that's exactly what happened with Barack Obama, right? His first term in office, when the results started coming in, when the results started trickling in, it looked like the Republicans were actually going to win. Until, all of a sudden there was just, upswing of votes coming in and they were all in Obama's favor. I want to talk about the...
By the way, Obama lost his first debate also to,
Yes, he did lose his first debate. And that worried the party a bit. Yes. Speaking of the party, some have suggested that Vice President Kamala Harris should be the next Democratic candidate who could possibly take in President Biden's position. What do you make of her?
Look, you showed a clip just before we came on air of Trump saying that he does not think they will do that and trying to run down Kamala Harris. Let me tell you what Trump is doing. Trump is encouraging the Democrats not to put her on the ticket, not because she will not win, but because Trump is afraid she might actually win.
Right.
And so Trump is actually beginning to attack her and to come out with an inadequacy so that it would also stop the Democrats from, thinking about changing her. But look, here's my take. It is too late to change the candidate. Very late to change the candidate. Secondly, if you decide to change the candidate, you open an internal civil war within the party itself. And the Democrats don't need that civil war right now. The third and very interesting is that, almost all over the world, including this country, by the way, the role of the vice president has always been a problem when you get to elections like this. The same people today who are talking of Kamala Harris, as over the last 4 years, they've actually looked down upon her. They've actually wondered whether she could be, a good president. Many just think that no way would they have a woman president, particularly of color, and the rest of it. Interestingly enough, the same people that have campaigned over the last 4 years against her are now saying, oh, you know what? If she was at the debate, she will not tolerate all the lies that Trump put out. No, it's all part of the game that, pundits play. Let Kamala Harris hold her gun. Let her stay as the vice presidential candidate. 4 years, if they win, she could actually be prepared to run for the presidency. But for now, the best bet for the Democrats remains President Joe Biden.
Well, I just have one quick question for you before we move on to break, because we're almost running out of time. And that's that either way, either candidates will be setting a precedent in America, wouldn't they? President Biden will become the oldest president to ever rule the United States, and Trump will become the first convicted president to rule the United States should he win the elections. How do you think that reflects on America as we know it today?
To be candid, the America we know today has lost its soul. It is not the America that upheld the values that turned around to define a number of things around the world. So when you hear scholars, particularly from this part of the world as well, every time we speak, we give examples from America. Every time we make comparison, we refer to the United States of America. It was because of the high standard and the values that America of old, espoused to the world and then sold to the world. But today, you look at America itself, it's so difficult to define what America has become over the years. And no thanks to the Republicans who have just gone completely extreme right. But guess what? You guys just showed what happened in France. The extreme right parties are doing, relatively well in all elections these days, particularly in Europe. and they are taking over government. And you're going to see how a lot of things would again change because of the, hard policies that they want to put in place, all in defense, quote and unquote, of their superior belief in so many things. So we just have to wait and see. But yes, you're right. Biden and Trump, by the way, everybody talks of the age of Biden, but Trump is also old.
Yeah,
Let's not forget that he's also
will probably be in his 80s.
So we have two old men running for office, and hopefully I hope that they will now begin to prepare. America will try to go back to the old America, where you had vibrant young men like the JFKs of this world. Where not too long ago you had Obama, coming in, to the helm of, to the leadership of the country itself. America honestly need to reset the button and go back to where we look on every indices. There was a time when you take a look at all indices, America was number one. Today they lost it all to the rest of the world.
And that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much. I understand how passionate you are about these topics. We'll invite you again some other time to share more of your analysis. Ambassador Joe Keshi, thank you again.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.